name's Andrew McAlorum. I'm the Digital Projects Librarian at University of Toronto Libraries. And today I'm going to talk about the desktop environment everyone loves to hate, Unity. Ubuntu 11.04 was released April 28th, so about a week ago. And there's been a lot of contention around it, and it's all been based around the implementation of Unity, the new default desktop that's replaced GNOME. And it's a real game changer for Ubuntu, for Linux, and also for the desktop market in general. Because it's a completely new interface, a whole new set of terminology, and really a new way of using the desktop. And the goal was obviously to make it simpler for new Linux users. But there's a lot of functionality that's built in that isn't immediately clear. So that's what I'm going to talk about mostly today, because I know everybody here is a power user or a developer, and when you're coming from that stance, it's really easy to get turned off by Unity because it is so simple looking. So yeah, I'm gonna talk a little bit about my experience with Unity so far and give you a quick demo outlining the new UI and highlighting some of the features that I think make it a step in the right direction, and hopefully encourage some of you to check it out. Okay, so I upgraded to Natty Narwhal, which is the code name for 11.04, when it was still in beta, and it took like 14 hours or something like that. You'd think I was installing Gentoo. And I have the screenshots to prove it as well. So there's 4 hours getting the packages, and 4 more hours to install the packages. And at this point, I just left for the day, and it was ready to go when I got home later. But it was madness. Once the stable version was released, I installed it on my netbook, and it took about an hour. And I should also say, in the beta, it was crashing all the time. Like once an hour, it would crash. It wasn't responsive at all to the commands. The launcher would take 5 seconds to pop out. So there was a lot of bugs, and this is just to say that it's come a long way in the 2 weeks or so that it's been. Okay, so here's the outline of the new user interface. The big change, the push that Canonical is doing with Unity is they want users to move from having multiple windows open in one workspace to using multiple workspaces. So that's a bit of a transition, but it's something they stole from Mac, so Mac users might be familiar with this. There's still the big freaking button up in the top left corner there, which is your start menu typically, even though it's not that big. And then on top there's the panel where you have your indicator applets on the side. And another change that they've done is in the panel, in your open window, the close, minimize, and maximize buttons are actually in the panel instead of in the window now. And the title of the window is in there as well. So I think this is to maximize screen real estate. But it's just it's a bit of a transition. And then the biggest change and the most obvious one is the launcher, which is what you see here that pops out on the side. And this is where you can put all your favorite applications, so they're easy to launch. There's also your workspace switcher Down below, there's the applications that are open. And then at the bottom is actually where you would click to find your application menu. And below that is the files and folders. So if you're just using a mouse and using the launcher to access your applications and your folders, it's really slow going and I wouldn't recommend it. So what I'm going to show you some of the shortcuts that are built into Unity that make this process a lot quicker and easier to use. The dash is what replaces your application menu, the places menu, and the system menu. Now it's all in this interface here, and you just start typing for what you want to launch, or you can scroll down and open up these menus. But everything is moved into this dash. And then there's something called lenses, which I think are one of the coolest parts of Unity. And lenses are elements that are in the Unity dash that allow you to search both web and application data. And this is something you need to install yourself. So I have a few examples that I'm going to go over at the end. Okay. So it's all about the shortcuts with Unity. I don't think it's even usable if you're not taking advantage of all these shortcuts. And previously, you would do this with something like GNOME-do, which you would have to install separately. But the beauty of Unity is that all this is built in. So to invoke the launcher, you can hold down the super, and then these numbers come up. And if you wanted to, then you can just click the number, and that'll open up the application that you wanted to launch there. If you want to move that window to another workspace, you just add Shift, and then that'll push it over to another workspace. I've heard a lot of people complain that you can't open up new instances of applications in Unity, and that's just not true. Again, you just add Shift to the command that you would use to launch an application in the first place. So if you did super Shift 5, then you would open up a new LibreOffice window. Another one, Control-Alt-T opens up a terminal. If you just tap the super, that opens up the dash. But if you want to restrict it to just applications, then you can do Super A, and that'll just search applications. If you wanted to just search for files and folders, then you can do Super F, and then that'll bring up the search for your files and folders. And in terms of workspaces, Super S zooms out on all the workspaces, so this is good if you have lots of applications open, you forget where things are. Another cool one is Super W, which opens up all the windows that are open in all the workspaces, so it gives you an overview of everything that you have going on in your desktop. And then you can switch between workspaces just with sorry, it's not working. There we go, okay. Control-Alt, and then the arrow keys allow you to move between your workspaces. And with Compass, you can have up to 32 different
workspaces at a time.
Lenses. So lenses allow you to search web or application data within the dash. And this is really convenient if, you know, when you want to just like watch a YouTube video, but you don't want to be bothered with opening up a browser and going to the URL. With lenses, if you install them, if you just add the PPA, then you can search this information just straight from your dash. So with the Reddit lens, now I can just do super R, and then that'll bring up Reddit and all the latest Reddit feeds straight at my dash, which is awesome. And same thing with Gwibber. So if I want to see what's new on Twitter and Facebook, I can just do super G, and then it takes a second with this one, but that'll bring up all your social feeds. So I think this is awesome if you're lazy. The other thing that you can do to customize your desktop is add indicator applets, which you see up at the top here. So there's 3 or 4 that are default, but then there's other ones that you can add. This one's the Ubuntu Cloud, so that'll sync up your computer to your cloud storage. There's another one, Caffeine. I think this is a really good example of of what an indicator applet should be used for. And this just it makes your computer stop from going into sleep mode, and it just lives right there in the panel. And another one is the weather indicator applet, and that'll just tell you what the weather is. So it's just handy to have this information at your fingertips like that. Okay, so this is the first iteration of Unity, and it's not perfect. One of the biggest things that I hear is that it's not customizable enough. Everyone's complaining about how you can't switch the space of the launcher. You can't move the launcher from the left to the right or to the bottom if you're used to a dock. I used Docky before this, so I would always have my dock at the bottom. You can't do that with this version of Unity. The other thing is everything's buried. So it is hard to find things if you're not used to it at first, and you really need to get used to this idea of using the dash and searching for things that way. The other thing is so in the applications dash, there's a lot of space is taken up by this advertising for applications, which can be handy, I guess, but I prefer it if it was just my installed applications. So that annoys me. And there are power issues. We were talking about this yesterday, but it's been tracked down to actually being a Linux kernel bug. So yeah, that's that. And then the other thing too is I should say this is all, there's multi-touch capability built into it, so you can put this on a tablet. And that was one of the whole reasons for this, but the touch isn't very good on it. So there needs to be some work done on that, and it's not quite there yet for power users. So I'll be interested to see what happens in 11.10 in 6 months when they've worked out some of these kinks. Just last thoughts. This is the latest that is happening in the desktop. It just came out a week ago, so if you're into bleeding edge stuff, check it out, but you might not want to install it on your work machine. There's questions about if this is rushed or not, because there are problems with it. And for all the people who just are using the Ubuntu Classic, just keep in mind that GNOME 2 isn't going to be supported in 11.10, so that's not going to be there anymore. And if you've looked at GNOME 3, which also came out around the same time as Unity, it's very similar, and they've also moved to workspaces. So it's kind of a lesser of two evils if you don't grok the way that Unity's laid out here. So I hope this inspires some people to check it out or look at it again, and thank you for your time. And if there's any questions too. Yeah.
I'm sitting here with my Mac. I love workspaces. They're fantastic. We were talking about this a little bit yesterday. I mean, the Unity design makes sense for smaller displays. It makes a lot of sense for tablets, assuming everything else is working properly. But when you've got a 1440 by 900 display, like I do, or if you've got a 22-inch monitor at the office, I don't need a 22-inch wide window of anything.
Right.
So I really don't see the point of having, the default for the installed operating system being a default that's fantastic for the small device when there's so much diversity. I mean, the way Ubuntu has been historically is there's been Ubuntu and then there's been Ubuntu Netbook. And that works, right? I mean, I install Ubuntu in VirtualBox on my Mac, and I use full screen with the traditional GNOME interface, and I've got Ubuntu on my netbook, and I use Unity there, or I use the
old
Maximus there that it has the same sort of look, and that works really well because it is this big.
Right.
So I don't really see the benefit for having a.
And I've heard a lot of people are saying that, and that's why I call this a transition to Unity. This is going to be the only option in Unity soon, so it is an adjustment to get used to working this way. I think it looks a lot better on my netbook than it does on my desktop, but I've installed it on both, and I mean, for me, it's just, I've just found that things have been a lot more productive and efficient being able to use these super keys that are built in with it. So I think it just takes a little time to start to get into it, and like I'm sticking with it now. I'm really digging it, and I did it for the first little while. So yeah, a lot of people aren't going to like it. I think new users that don't have the baggage of GNOME 2 will maybe be more responsive to it. Yeah.
Actually, it's a question for you.
Oh, okay.
So you said that this kind of interface doesn't work well for very big screens because generally maximizing it takes, you don't want your application to take the whole.
Right. I mean,
do you have any other environment that right now supports a different way of working, like automatic window management in some way?
Well, I mean, that's what my Mac desktop looks like right now. I've got a bunch of windows. There's a lot of overlap here right now, but I don't need, I don't want to have a web browser that's a full, widescreen 1400 by 900 display. I'm used to having pages in a portrait mode, not in a really wide landscape mode.
WMII will also do automatic window management, but I think that's not a easy approachable window manager for a lot of people.
There are alternative window managers, but in any of the stuff. And I actually remember I used the first Unity versions, and you were able to demaximize Windows and let it open demaximize. As I remember. So that's why I asked about this. I think that right now there is no mainstream desktop solution that really allows you to maximize your use, or not overlapping, maximize the use of your, when you have a bigger screen, you have to manually arrange your windows. It's the only solution you have with mainstream desktop solutions so far.
I would just say too, because I'm still not used to this idea of just having one window open in each workspace. So I've just been doing a lot of Alt-Tab to switch between applications that way. So that's still there.
Did I get it correctly? It only opens it in full screen mode? You can't make it smaller?
No, you can. What happens is when you scroll over to the side, there is no scroll bar on the side of the windows anymore. But if you, let me see. Okay, it's not really showing on here, but when you scroll over to the side of a window, it pops up, and then you can minimize and maximize things. Okay, thanks guys.
Sorry, I just have a little bit of input. Question about window managers that'll automatically deal with tiling and things. Somebody over here mentioned some of the sort of alternative things like lossless and ion. The latest version of KDE actually added tabbing to their window manager, so you can actually, I haven't played with it too much, but there's an option in there to use automatic tiling within KDE